Our eyes are always pointed at things we are interested in approaching or investigating or looking for or having. We must see, but to see we must aim. So we are always aiming, and our minds are built on hunting and gathering platforms of our bodies. To hunt is to specify a target, track it, and throw at it. To gather is to specify and to grasp. We fling stones and spears and boomerangs. We toss balls through hoops and hit pucks into nets and curl carved granite rocks down in ice onto horizontal bullseyes. We launch projectiles at targets with bows, guns, rifles, and rockets. We hurl insults, launch plans, and pitch ideas. We succeed when we score a goal or hit a target. We fail or sin when we do not. We cannot navigate without something to aim at, and while we are in this world, we must always navigate. We are always and simultaneously at point A, moving towards point B. We always encounter the world in a state of insufficiency and seek correction. We can imagine new ways that things can be set right and improved, even if we have everything we thought we needed. Even when satisfied temporarily, we remain curious. We live within a framework that defines the present as eternally lacking and the future as eternally better. If we do not see things this way, we would not act at all. We wouldn't even be able to see, because to see we must focus, and to focus we must pick one thing above all else to which to focus. Now your trajectory is heavenward. That makes you hopeful. Even a man on a sinking ship can be happy when he clambers aboard a lifeboat, and who knows where he might go in the future. To journey happily may be better than to arrive successfully. Ask and ye shall receive. Knock and the door will open. If you ask as if you want and knock as if you want to enter, you may be offered a chance to improve your life a little, a lot, completely, and with that improvement, some progress will be made in being itself. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. Morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sports Medicine Broadcast. What you've just heard was a small bit of Dr. Jordan B. Peterson's rule number 4, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today, from the book 12 Rules of Life, An Antidote to Chaos. In the chapter, Dr. Peterson outlines the importance of both setting a goal and not comparing yourself and others in a way to better prepare yourself for the chaos of life. One of the many aspects of building traits of a leader that I found is goal setting. And joining us today to cover the topic of goal setting and leadership is someone who is an expert in leadership building in the field of athletic training, Ms. Brandy Currie. Welcome, Brandy.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. And of course, welcome Jeremy, the original host of the Sports Medicine Broadcast. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, thanks, John. Appreciate you, Brandy. Appreciate you coming on, and I'm really glad that we got to talk about or get to talk with you. I know that it was just through a Facebook post that we kind of said what we were talking about, and then you were just on board and saying, hey, I love leadership. I'm an athletic trainer, and so I want to be able to combine those in any way I can. So I appreciate you being willing to jump on. But before we get started, I do want to give a quick shout out to Cynthia Tronkosko over at Atascocita High School. It was really cool. I was over there for the regional track meet. She was like, I was like, I'm Jeremy Jackson. She's like, oh, hey, you're the guy that does a sports medicine broadcast. And so it was really cool, like, to meet people in person that only knew me through the podcast. So it was pretty fun to do there. And then from our first podcast, Extreme Ownership, Patrick O'Haver connected with us on the Gathering Den or whatever it is, the NETA forums that they've just kind of started. And so he gave us some feedback, and appreciate you listening and being part of it and helping us continue to grow. So, all right, John, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for being here, and thanks to our listeners. Must be nice to have a following and to be a celebrity. So, Brandy, thanks for agreeing to be on today and to talk with us today a little bit about goal setting and leadership. So I know this was one of the things we were kind of going back and forth, the different topics. And for me, I was really I felt that goal setting is such an important thing, if not for leadership, really for every person, um, athletic trainer or not. I think in leadership or goal setting is such an important thing, that I couldn't get away from it. Like I had to talk about it, and I had to talk about the importance. So, um, obviously, thank you for being on, and why don't you go ahead and tell the guest or tell everybody who you are and where you're from.
I'm Brandy Currie. I am located up here in North Dakota, where, yes, it has been snowing already. A little bit of history about me. I graduated from the University of North Dakota and moved down to Arizona, and became an athletic trainer at a very large school there. Things kind of were just changing in our life, and so my husband and I decided it was a time to move back to North Dakota, and that presented me with a few different opportunities outside the secondary school setting. Leadership is something that has always just intrigued me and I was always interested in. So I was given the opportunity to go back to school and got my master's in educational leadership. That led me to being a professor at the University of Mary. So I currently teach in an athletic training program. But in that leadership piece was still kind of unfulfilled for me. So I took the opportunity to get more involved in my state association. I've served 2 terms as our vice president there. And that just sort of gave me an added push to take this even further. I started attending a lot of leadership type conferences and somehow connected with some people who were connected with John Maxwell. And so then I got the invite to join the John Maxwell team, which has been a really great experience for me. I have had the opportunity to learn and be mentored directly by John Maxwell and his team. And if you don't know who John Maxwell is, Google him really quickly. He's written over 100 different books on leadership, so he is somewhat of an expert on the topic. So I get to learn firsthand from one of the greats. So it's pretty awesome.
That's really cool. I know he's been, whenever we talk to people about leadership or life-changing books, John Maxwell always comes up. Even when we talked about leadership in our first podcast months ago, he was brought up a couple times, and it's been a while since I've read it, but Outliers was one of the first books I've read that got me interested, albeit 10, 15 years ago when I read it. It's still a book that I'll think about every once in a while, and I'll remember those key little points within that book that has pushed me into. And I think having that little background of that book has, when I read a book like Extreme Ownership, like when I read a book, there's a stack of books on my table right now. I think back, those are John Maxwell things, or those are things I heard from John Maxwell. And, we talked about this a little bit too. You're going to see a lot of the same principles throughout every single book. You can pick a book up from, somebody who's been in war. You can pick up a book who's somebody who's, been a psychology professor. They're going to be very similar things, but, John Maxwell, like you said, he's written so many books. It's he's continuously going to be a person who's out there talking about leadership.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, I really wanted to talk about goal setting, and I felt that this would be a good topic to get people, if they are interested in leadership roles, if they are interested in being a leader within their company or within their school. You have to set a goal. You have to take that first step forward. And like I said, I thought it was really important that we talked about it. I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on leadership and goal setting? And, do you feel that they're important and that they work together? Are they separate in your mind, or what do you think?
I do. Yes is the short answer. Goal setting. What do we need tomorrow for if we're not going to try to be better? Do you know what I mean? So we have to have something that we're continually reaching for and striving for. If we're not doing that, what do we need to keep pushing the days for? I tend to look at things a little bit different. I do very much follow goal setting, and I have goals, and I work with goals with a lot of my clients, my individual clients as well. But I sort of look at it as growth. The first law of John Maxwell's 15 laws of growth is intentionality, and that's really where it starts. It becomes, and that's what goal setting is. You've taken a moment to become intentional about doing something, and that leads you to setting the goal. I work with my clients to look at this a little bit differently. Goals are wonderful, you should have them, but within each goal, there should be a focus on growth, because you may or may not hit the goal. But then the question that comes out of it at the end is, did I grow from the process? Did something happen in the experience that allowed me to learn and to become better? Because that's what we're striving to do every day, is to become better, whether it be in our jobs or in our lives or wherever. We want to be better than we were.
I like that, the intentional step. Like you have to sit back and think about it, and write it down. Sometimes, almost always, you have to write it down. For me, I know I've talked about this a handful of times. Like I have a massive whiteboard in my house that I set down and I write the goals down, what I want. And if I'm not writing them down, I'm not taking that intentional step, then I'm not going to follow those goals that I'm trying to set forward.
Exactly. There's a reason why the law of intentionality is the first law of growth. If we are going to improve, we have to be intentional about doing it. We can talk about it, we can say stuff, but really writing it down and creating a goal or a vision is that first step in I'm going to do something about this. And that's why writing it down and that is really important, because for most of us, that's not really a natural process. I tell my students this all the time when I'm teaching is, right now, you are in a perfect curriculum for growth, meaning somebody is telling you how to grow and get better and improve every single day. I mean, we're designing it for you. That's what we're doing as professors. But the moment you walk out of this classroom, you have to create your own classroom. You have to take that step to grow yourself as a professional or grow yourself as a person. And so what are you looking for? What are the goals? What are the steps you're trying to do that?
I love how you talked about vision, and that was part of the reason why I talked about, I opened up with that chapter from Jordan Peterson. It's really creating that vision. What do you want to step forward and do, and how do you want to make yourself better? He talks about not comparing yourself to other people, comparing yourself who you were yesterday, and having that vision is one of the most important things. And that chapter, albeit I just read like 2 pages off of it, the chapter is incredibly long, and it really dives into more so the science behind vision and why we need that vision, and then it kind of wraps it around and goes back around, and why having an aim, why having something to go for, a goal per se, is important. And I really like the fact that you talked about the vision, and you talk to your students about having that vision.
I tell my students all the time, if you don't have a vision, I'm scared of you, because I have no idea where you're going and I have no idea what you want out of life. And that's a very scary thing. I want people, and I believe in the power of the universe. One of my favorite books is, oh gosh, I'm totally blanking on the name right now. Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich. And it's a power of the universe. You put it out there, the universe wants to help you make it happen. And so if you put it out there and you make it so clear, so crystal clear, and you can see it and you can feel it and you can taste it, those things will actually start to happen for you. That's just, the universe is all energy, and it's all working back towards us. And the other thing I talk about all the time with students especially is, like you just said, do you want to be better than you were yesterday? The quote that you read from the book. Mm-hmm. It's the infinite game versus the finite game. And which one do we want to play? Do we want to play a finite game? A finite game has an end. I've reached my goal, I'm done. And I won, I became the best. Or do you want to be playing an infinite game that is never ending, that continually allows you that opportunity to keep growing and improving and becoming something more than you were yesterday?
Yeah, I think what a great career, right? What a great profession we're in, where we are constantly around games, right? Like we're around seasons. My life revolves around basically 4 seasons. It's fall, winter, spring, summer, and 3 of those seasons I am with different teams, and they are talking about goals, whether they know it or not. They're trying to reach a goal, and if you look at one team, their goal is to reach the playoffs, and another team's goal is to continue on and maybe reach the state finals. So what an amazing profession we're in, that we see those things, and how can we individually take those lessons that we learn each season and get better. I love the fact that you touched on it's a game, and we're making those incremental steps. It's not just taking one big step every single time, or like we're not trying to climb Mount Everest every single day. It's just taking 1 or 2 steps. And once you start doing those 1 or 2 steps, you start striding. You do bigger steps throughout, whether it's the week, month, year, whatever it is. We're doing more and more each time.
I see a lot. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching with clients, and I see we just start built with this need to know how and need to know why almost immediately. And I think for a lot of us, that becomes a hang up. I tell people all the time, some of the best plans are one step, and that's it. What is the one thing you can do right now? You don't have to think. I mean, I think vision is important, don't get me wrong, but I don't think we have to get so caught up in that I have to see the big picture and I have to know exactly how it's going to happen right now. Sometimes it's that one step. And, like in our profession, maybe that one step is to, well, right now, something I can do is more efficiently manage my time. And so I'm going to take that one step. I'm going to set a goal to more efficiently manage my time, whatever that looks like. And then now I've done that. Now I can take another step and then another step, and I can keep growing that way.
Yeah, it's important to do those little steps. If you try to take something too big, you get discouraged. You may raise your bar too high, and if the bar is too high and you're not reaching it, then you're going to become, really, you don't want to try to work towards anything. And if you're not, you have to kind of set that bar a little bit lower and then try to reach for that. It's like, go ahead.
And that's what John talks to us a lot about. I think maybe one of the problems, and I think goal setting is so important, but I think maybe one of the problems sometimes is we get so hung up on the goal that we forget to extract the growth that occurred because of trying to achieve the goal. We set a goal and we might say, okay, I didn't hit it, I failed, and now what do I do? But if we pause and look at that process, okay, but what did I learn in that? I might not have actually hit my goal, but I did get better. I got better, and now I readjust, and here's how I go back at it.
Yeah, that's, when we talked about the vision, it's having to constantly readjust that vision and refocus on those things. Like if you have an idea and you're like, oh, I really want to do this. If you're big into working out and you're like, I want to bench press 250 pounds, and you jump on a bench press and you can't do it, like, okay, I'm gonna have to refocus, set that weight back down. Maybe it's 150 pounds where I start today, and then go from there, and then build up incremental steps again.
Absolutely.
So you had talked about those 15 steps. Are there any of the other 15 steps that you want to touch on?
The 15 laws, oh my gosh, I could go on for days talking about the 15 laws of growth. And I think one that comes into mind right away that just goes with this goal setting is the law of the rubber band. You've got to continually stretch yourself. What good is a rubber band sitting on the table? What's its purpose? What's its function?
I like that.
It has no function. It has no function sitting on a table. If we aren't actually stretching the rubber band, it's not doing anything. That's what its job is. And that's what we need to think about too. How am I every day continually working to stretch myself to become something different? If I become complacent, if I don't work to stretch, then this is who I am and this is how I will always be. And then it becomes that expression, if you always do what you've always done, you will always get what you've always got. The law of the rubber band will help us to look at how can I stretch myself today. I am very reflective in my personal practice. I wake up every morning with intent on what am I going to do to grow. And I will set goals, little goals for the day. I've never done this, but I'm going to try it today. And if I fail, I'll learn something because failure is part of the game and I need to learn a little bit. And great, then tomorrow I'll reset a different goal and I'll keep working towards something. And then the end of the day, I'm very reflective in that practice. What worked? What didn't work? How do I need to readjust?
We had talked about the being in this profession and being around the games, and one of the things that I've kind of believed in more recently in my life is the idea of 1-0. When we're with teams and the teams that set out to be undefeated at the end of the year, they're most likely not going to be undefeated at the end of the year. But the teams that set out and want to be 1-0 at the end of the week or 1-0 at the end of the day, they tend to have a little bit, their focus is more in the moment. It's more precise, and they're able to attack and really gather the goal that they want to hit. So, I've done that in my recent life too. It's just be 1-0 at the end of every day. It's just trying to, like you said, be in the moment, be happy, achieve the goals that I'm setting forward for that day, rather than looking at the whole week, looking at the whole month. And the more I do that, the more I feel I've been successful at achieving my goals.
Mm-hmm. Get a small win every single day. That is
Yeah.
so important to keeping you moving. And let's flip this for a second, and let's look at this from like a clinical athletic training perspective.
Mhm.
Your goal with your patient that comes in with a torn ACL, your long-term goal, of course, is to get them back out onto the field or the courts or whatever their venue might be. But that isn't your focus for tomorrow. Your focus
Right.
for tomorrow is increasing range of motion, increasing strength, showing them the little wins that they are getting every single day that are ultimately building to that big goal. And if we don't look at those small wins every day, what's going to happen to our patient? They're going to get lost. They're going to get frustrated in the process. And we can't control. So we focus. That's why we write short-term goals with our patients, right? We want to show them what they're getting now.
And part of having a goal too is having a why. Why are we doing stuff? Why are, if you're talking about personal goals, what do you want to accomplish in your life? And then when you talk about our practice too, what do we want to accomplish with our athletes? What do we want to accomplish within the season? And if we don't have a why, we're really setting, I don't want to say terrible goals, but we're really setting loose goals that,
Exactly.
if we don't have a reason why we're going to those things, we're probably not going to achieve them. And there's no reason to actually set goals.
Mm-hmm. A big chunk of my work is just that. I do why summits with people. I come in and do 2-day workshops where I sit down with organizations and I show you how to find what your why is. And a lot of it goes back and digging into their history. But you're absolutely right. If you don't know why you are doing what you are doing, it is so easy to get lost in the process and forget. And you end up with arbitrary targets. Like, I don't know what I'm trying to do or where I'm trying to go. So this sounds good, or this sounds good, or this sounds good. And you're probably going to end up missing every target. But if you are crystal clear focused on why you are doing what you are doing and you have that specific target, it is so much easier to hit that target.
Right. It's having the humility to have that vision, to have that reason why, and to realize that the reason you have that vision is currently right now you're a flawed person or you're flawed within your practice, and to have humility to go forward is humbling. It shows that humility that you want to be better, and it gives you a why. It almost builds it in why you're doing it, and the more you do those things, the bigger that why becomes, and it helps you perform those goals.
Exactly. My why statement, and this is what I tell myself every day when I get out of bed. My why statement, is to add value to the lives of others so they can find their unique gifts and go out and add value to the lives of others. That's why I do everything that I do. And that's a filter. It becomes a filter. What am I going to choose to do today? Well, if it's not adding value to someone, it's probably not high on my agenda. And it shouldn't be a goal.
Right. Do you ever get discouraged doing that?
Yes. It is easy to, I want all my clients to be incredibly successful. And sometimes the process is a little bit longer, but that's the process. And that's the law of the process. There is a process to doing things. And sometimes it gets hard to step out and say, oh, I just want this success for you right now. But if I can remove myself from that situation a little bit and look at, yeah, we didn't hit our big goal today, but look at all of the little things that we accomplished and what did we learn? And now we can move. And now we're moving through in a much more efficient way because we're learning all of these things. Yes, we didn't get you to, I work with a lot of clients to set up their own businesses. So yeah, maybe you didn't take the jump and set your own business up today, but you learned a heck of a lot of the insurance process. You learned a heck of a lot about the legal process, and that gets you one step closer to doing it. It does get hard. And I encourage people to have an inner circle. Who are your people? This is who I am. For a lot of my clients, I'm their thinking partner. But who is that person in your life that or that circle of people in your life that keeps motivating you to go and keep pushing forward, even when you're not hitting the goal that you wanted to right now in the time frame that you had set?
So you talked a little bit about efficiency. How important is being efficient when it comes to setting goals?
Well, I think you need to be realistic, and there has to be a process to doing it. I think keep the goal in mind. Keep the goal in mind. That's where we're ultimately trying to go. But don't get too hung up on the plan. The plan is going to have to change. The plan always changes. Something always comes up and you need to readjust. And I think this was a huge learning lesson for me because I am a very structured person. I live and breathe by my day runner. Like everything is noted out there. And it's hard times when you're like, that didn't go like it was supposed to. Now the rest of my day is off. Mm-hmm. And that's a challenge. But if I learn that I don't get attached to the plan, what's the outcome? Where am I going? What am I working on? Did I still make progress towards it? Yes. So what if my day got a little off? Don't get too attached to the plan. Focus on the outcome.
I'm exactly the same way. Like I live and die by my calendar, and at certain times I have to be certain places. And and in the past, when I necessarily didn't have a goal or a why, it was always like if one thing went off and my schedule was thrown off, like my day was done, and I was emotionally, mentally, like I couldn't do it anymore. And to have that understanding that the plans are always going to change. And in athletic training, that is every single day.
Absolutely.
And if we don't have an understanding behind that, like it's gonna be tough. But the more we set goals forward and the more we try to be a little bit more efficient and prioritize certain things, it really does help when that chaos ensues and when plans don't go to goal, like we want them to.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to have a process for things, because then when things don't go accordingly, your process is still kind of there to pick up the pieces. I will get calls from people last minute. Can you work with me today? And it's like, I didn't have time to sit and prep and plan. And that's really hard for me to do, but I know my client needs it. And so sometimes it's just about getting in the moment, and my process looks the same as to how I work through things. And I'm able to function through it. It wasn't ideal. And it screwed up my, my beautifully laid out, color organized calendar, but it works. It's sometimes you just go with the process and it works.
Yeah, we talked about last time maybe it wasn't last time, but an episode ago we had talked about the enemy always has a plan, right? Like you don't know who the enemy is, but the enemy is out there always to try to change your plans around. And the more you can have a handle and understanding on it, the better you're going to adapt to those changes in plans. So we talked about we're really trying to go towards like setting goals for people, and how can people go about setting their own goal and creating a goal, whether it be small or big?
I think it starts with intentionality, like I said at the beginning, and it starts with reflection, and it starts with, what do you want? What do you want? I don't think people get asked that enough. I think people are very much focused on what everybody else wants. I think really that can be very true about athletic training. Mm-hmm. What do you want, though? Sorry, it's going to go dark in here. I haven't moved enough in my office. So what do you want? I don't think people get asked that. And that's a really hard thing for people to answer when I ask them that. They're like, I don't know what I want. Think about it. Stop and think about it. What do you want? And I think if people can really take a few minutes and dig inside themselves a little bit and say, what is it that I want? Then the process of creating goals to get there becomes so much easier. And I'm giving you permission, because so many people in their life need permission to do something for themselves. And a lot of times people look at, well, if I set goals for myself, that's distracting from what I'm supposed to be doing. No, you are what you are doing. If you're not getting better, if you're not improving, then nothing in your life is. So if you're focusing just on work and not on yourself, you're missing a huge, big piece of the puzzle. Stop. Think about what you want. Think about where you want to go. What's the curriculum? Is there something, maybe it's a new certification. Maybe it's not in the budget right now, but what can you do right now to take one step in the right direction? Maybe you want to get certified in dry needling, just for an example, right? And it's a very expensive course. Okay, I know that it's not going to happen right now, but what can I do right now to get there? And maybe it's a small thing. Maybe it's I put $5 away every week until I build up money. Or maybe it's I start researching where the courses are. What is the one thing you can do right now? You've just set a goal. You've just started the process. And it doesn't have to be, that's the thing, it doesn't have to be this huge, big out thing, but what can I do right now? What is one step I can take right now?
I think the important thing that you said is to stop and think about it. It doesn't have to be right then and there. You don't have to say, what do you want? And then have an answer. Like, legitimately, you should actually stop, think about it, and probably sleep on it too. Actually cultivate that idea and really come up with the idea of what you really want in your life. What do you want? Like you said, do you really want to spend the money? Do you really want to invest the money to go into that dry needling course, or do you really want to change your life around? Like, how do you want to do those things? It's really stopping and thinking about those before you set that first goal, or before you take that first step.
That piece of clarity is so important. Who are you? What do you want? Where do you see yourself going? And are the things that you are doing every day aligning with that? And a message that I give, you have to think about how you think about yourself, because we often don't think in the right frame of mind for us. Our thoughts affect our emotions direct our actions. So if we're saying, I work with a lot of people with money issues, so I can't afford this class, that thought is affecting your emotions. And so you start to kind of feel, and then your actions become towards that way too. You direct that action out, and it doesn't work. It doesn't match. Your thoughts have to line up. I want this. I can do this. I just have to take a step. So here's what I'm going to do. If you're not lining all of that up, it's going to fall apart and be a mess.
How important is our emotions? You just kind of touched on that. How important are emotions when it comes to goal setting?
My clients hate me sometimes because I make them cry. And I make them cry because that's getting to who they are. Like, when I say, I don't believe people get asked enough, who do you want to be? I still ask 50-year-old people, who do you want to be when you grow up? Because they got stuck on a path, following a plan that maybe the goal is different now, but they're still stuck on that plan. You have to stop and think, and that requires you getting really deep within yourself and getting to those emotions of the things that are important to you. When I work with people to find their why, if I don't bring them to tears, I'm probably not that successful, because their why, their driving force, the thing that gets them out of bed in the morning, should have a very heavy layer of emotion to it. There's something connecting you, because whether you believe it or not, that context is driving almost every decision that you make in your life. Whether you are subconsciously or consciously acknowledging it, it is. Those emotions that you have, they're driving everything. I am working with a woman right now who wants more than anything to start her own business. Her flaw is that she goes online and compares herself to everybody else. And so my goal with her is to show her her worth and her value. And I don't care what they're charging. You can charge this. What are you worth? And she called me crying. Oh my God, no one has ever allowed me to say what I am worth before. And that was the pivotal turning point for her. Everything in her plan now is falling into place because she knows why she's doing it, and she is centered and focused on that. Her goals are lining up. Everything is falling into place. But had she not had that emotional breakthrough, we'd probably still be trying to knock down the walls.
That's important too. Is we really want to. You really want to compare yourself to who you are.
Exactly.
Who you were yesterday, not with somebody else. And it's so easy nowadays with social media, and we can get on another topic with this, but I mean, it's so easy, and I think we all do it. Like, we all fall prey to this, and we compare ourselves to other people, and it's demoralizing. Like, there's times where I'll look at something and I'll just be like, man, I wish I could do this more, or I wish I was more. You almost fall in that trap of, I wish I was more like this person. But then what you don't realize is that's just a screenshot or a snapshot of who that person is. And it's not the whole, where you have your whole person, right? Yeah, it's their highlight. So you really have to take yourself away of comparing yourself to that person's highlight, like you just said, and really just compare yourself who you were yesterday. And that's a really good way to start setting goals and who you are, who you want to be, like you said, and attach that emotion to it.
And going back to what I said earlier, is it the finite or the infinite game? If you're playing a finite game, so you get to be the best, what's next? But if you're playing an infinite game, it's I'm better than I was yesterday. That is all internal. That is all about you, and that helps take the focus. I want to tell a story that Simon Sinek told us once. He was giving a talk, and he was talking to the company about their organizations and their organizational goals. And their organizational goal was to be the best, to be the best. And he was trying to get them to see that maybe that's not the best goal, and they weren't really listening. And anyway, they thanked him for his time. They gave him a brand new 2 cell phone companies, Apple and another cell phone company. The one cell phone company gave him a cell phone, beautiful cell phone. A couple weeks later, he went to the competitor organization, and their mindset was very different. Their mindset was all about themselves. Last week we were this is where we want to be this week. It was never about we want to be the best, because what does that mean? The best compared to what? Who set the standards? They wanted to know they were setting their standard and they were beating their own standard. And a very interesting conversation occurred with Simon and the CEO of this company in the car ride to the airport. Simon, just to kind of play him a little bit, leaned over and said, I want to show you what the other company gave me. And he pulled out this brand new phone, and he's like, it's the best. It's wonderful. It's got all the bells and whistles. And that CEO's response was, that's great for them. Wow, clarity that CEO had. He didn't care what the other guy was doing. He only was concerned about what his company was doing. And I'll tell you which company is number 1 in the world right now, and it's not the other guy.
Right. Yeah, you have to set those non-ambiguous goals. They have to be very specific. And if you're just looking out into the woods, you don't really know what you're looking at. But if you have a focus, you have an aim, and you know what you want to work towards, that tends to help with setting a good goal.
Yeah, it has to be something that is realistic and has to be specific enough that you can attain it. And yeah, setting the goal to be the best. Best what? What does that even mean?
Right.
Maybe I want to be, how can we write this differently? How can we make it make more sense?
So when we talk about athletic training and the field of sports medicine, what are good goals that people can work towards? Let's talk about like the person who's coming out of their undergraduate right now. What are good goals that they can set or that they should be looking at potentially?
Keep the curriculum going. Right now, your professors are teaching you everything. When you walk out that door, it is on you. If you want to continue to improve yourself as an athletic trainer, what is your plan for improvement? What are you going to do? And maybe it's something simple as I set a goal to attend 1 continuing ed course live event every so often. Maybe it's to get a new certification every so many years. Something. Have something established to be your continuing curriculum. That is a very hard transition for people to make to it's on you now. No one's going to do this for you. You have got to do it. So those new grads coming out, what's your plan? I want to know, what's your plan for personal growth? What is your plan for development? I don't know. That's usually the answer I get. And I don't want that. I want specific.
Yeah, we had talked about this before, is teaching people how to think, not what to think. And you tend to get that with the ones that are just before graduation.
Yes.
What do I do next? They're looking for the answer rather than looking at how to cultivate that and create that answer themselves.
Exactly. I think that is a big problem, not just in athletic training, but facing the world globally right now, is we are teaching people what to think and not how to think. My goal as a John Maxwell coach is never to tell you what to do, because I believe that the answers are always within the clients. My job is to ask questions because you have the answers. You just need to find them.
Yeah, that's the important thing too, is you don't want to necessarily guide somebody. You want to help guide them, right? But you don't want to guide them in the way that you're giving them their own goals, because then they're not really working towards their own goals. They're working towards your goals, right?
I get this a lot with my clients. When I ask, what are your goals? They typically start saying like what their employer's goal for them is. And I have to stop them. No, what's your goal? What do you want? Oh, well, I've never thought about it that way before. I've always just been kind of told that these are the things I should work for. That is a really changing experience for a lot of people when they recognize that it isn't about what your employer wants, or I work with a lot of new students, so it's what your dad wants. I hear that my dad wants me to go on to school. Great. What do you want to do? That's an important piece. And I encourage everybody, every athletic trainer, ask, what do you want? What do you want for yourself?
When we talk about goal setting too, we talk about setting habits that will complement those goals. What are good habits that people who set goals keep?
Consistency, being consistent, daily reflection is so key. You have to reflect on your day. You have to try to extract the learning from the day. If you just go to sleep without thinking about all of the learning experiences that you were presented with every day, you miss every opportunity to learn. And then that morning intentionality. What does today look like? How am I going to be intentional about being better today? What can I do today? My day, and this is not a practice that works for everybody, but my day starts with up early, quiet time by myself with my journal. And I reflect and I am intentional about, like I said, my why statement is to add value to others. Who can I add value to today? That's the first question I ask myself. And how can I help someone else be better today? And when I've answered those two questions, I'm ready to go about the rest of my day. Then I end my day back in that same journal, reflecting on those things. Did I do the things I set out to do? Did I add value to that person? Did I help somebody grow today? If you're not doing those things, what's the point of having a goal? It's just going to sit there. You've got to re-examine it and refocus on it. Just like in athletic training, why do we write notes on our patients? Why do we reevaluate them every couple of days?
Right.
To see if they're making progress towards their goals, right? Why are we not taking that practice that we as athletic trainers know so well and applying it to our own lives?
I think we're the best at do as I say, not as I do. And we need to start practicing what we preach.
Yes.
But it's how many
Absolutely.
times we fall into the prey of maybe we sprain an ankle and we're like, all right, I know I need to ice. I know I need to elevate, but you know what? I'll do it later.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
That is so true. That
It's
is
the same thing with goal setting.
exactly. And that is what makes us great athletic trainers, is our ability to look out and care for other people. But at what point are you doing that at the sacrifice of yourself? And I'll tell you, if you spend a few minutes working on yourself every day, your patients are going to be that much better for it.
You can only care for people if you've cared for yourself.
Uh-huh.
You
Not for them
cannot.
necessarily.
Exactly. Yeah. You just took the words out of my mouth.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah.
No, that's important too, is that self-care and that self awareness. And for you, it's keeping the journal. For me, it's my whiteboard, but it always comes back to having that why and having that vision.
Yes. I know that if I have failed in my day if I haven't done something to help someone else get better, and if I haven't intentionally tried to grow myself every single day. That's my standard that I set for myself. That is not everybody's standard, and I'm not implying that it should be, but you should have a standard for yourself, whatever that standard looks like. For you, it's you get up, you look at that whiteboard, you have to get that visual out, which makes a lot of sense for athletic training. We're very visual and kinesthetic people. Get it out there, and then your brain can process it. And so that's the law of the process. What process works for you? For me, it's the morning reflection, or the morning intention, the daily reflection. For you, it's your whiteboard. But individually, each person needs to figure out what this process looks like for them.
So, Brandy, real quick, the adding value to somebody's day. So, like right here with the podcast, do you count that because you're adding value? But then, what about like tomorrow when somebody listens to it, or the next day, or the next day? So,
I'm in the perfect curriculum to do that because I'm a college professor, and every day I have students that need something from me. And adding value doesn't necessarily mean I throw them a pearl or I throw them a gem. Sometimes it's just stopping to acknowledge that they're there. And a lot of my clients, it's acknowledging their goals and what they're trying to do. I guess I wake up with the intentionality to, someone's going to be better today because of me. And sometimes it's as simple as because I smiled at them. It doesn't have to be massive. And I'm not keeping a tally of huge, big value pieces that I've added to people. It's just I'm intentional about making the day better for somebody every day.
You talked about standard. You said the word standard. There has been a word I've said more over the last couple of weeks, has been the word standard. and it hasn't been on this podcast. It's been at work where we're talking about changing things around. It's setting that standard, and how important is it for people who want goals or set goals? How important is it to have a standard?
Oh, what are you measuring against if you don't have a standard? How, I mean, look at our educational curriculum. You have to have something to measure against, right? And that's what that standard is for you. You have to, what's my bar? Where am I trying to be? And that gives me a comparison, a tool to look against. If we don't have a standard, everything is really kind of arbitrary. We have to have something to look back against and compare to. And like I said, everybody's standard is going to be different. Mine is daily, because that's the level that I'm at now. For some of us, it isn't daily. Start with, I need to do this once a week or once a month or whatever. That's your current standard, and build on it.
Yeah. It's holding yourself accountable for something. And if you're not holding yourself accountable, you're not going to be true to yourself when you're trying to reach goals.
And if you know that you cannot hold yourself accountable, you find somebody who will hold you accountable to that. Find a thinking partner.
Yeah. And that's important too, is, we're talking about working on ourselves and making sure that we're the best person. But if we don't have somebody out there that is going to hold us accountable, it doesn't matter who that person is, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, whether it's whatever, that person is.
Sorry, it goes dark in here if I sit too long.
You need somebody else other than yourself, because you tend to, you can lie to yourself a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
It's really easy for me to mark on the whiteboard that I met my diet for that day.
I know, right?
Maybe I woke up at 8:05 and I wanted to be up at 8, and it was close enough. So I can,
eat that piece of chocolate, so it doesn't count, right?
Right.
Yeah, having that accountability partner, somebody to hold you accountable, is incredibly important to reaching goals. Otherwise, it's easy to cheat yourself. It's look at doing a treatment on yourself. I mean, you touched on it earlier. It's easier to do it on somebody else than to do it on ourselves. We can do Graston all day long on somebody else, but doing Graston on ourselves, that might hurt a little bit. I don't want to do that. And facing that moment of, well, but I tell everybody else it's good for them, and so maybe I should take my own word. And if you can't do it on yourself, then find somebody who will do it for you.
Well, I'm not some kind of sicko that likes that.
And if that's your deal, that works great.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about reflection when we were talking about, setting goals and things. I know it's important. Like for me, it's at the end of the day when I'm marking things off or when I'm looking at it. But can you touch on reflection a little bit more? How do you do it, and how do you find that your clients have benefited from that reflection?
Have you heard the expression "experience is the best teacher"?
Yes, just now.
And I hear that. I hear that a lot. Experience is the best teacher, and I disagree wholeheartedly. Experience can't teach you anything until you try to extract the learning from it. You have to extract the learning from the experiences. So it's actually being intentional about that process. Like I mentioned, for me, I am a planner person, and I work with a woman who designs me my own planner. I sit with her, I build what I want, and I give these to all of my clients as I move forward. And at the end of each day, I have ACT, and it's an acronym: apply, change, and then my team, how I give that to my team. And that's what I do at the end of every day. How did I apply what I said I was going to apply? What am I changing as a result from that? And then what am I teaching, or my team, how am I giving that out? That is a process that works for me. It isn't going to work for everybody. And I, like you said with your whiteboard, this is the closing page of every day in my planner, because that's where I have my reflection pages built into my planner because it runs my life. But I look at that. What did I apply today? What did I change today? And what am I teaching today? What am I giving this out to my team? It might look for you like, okay, just simple on a piece of paper, 2 sentences. What went well? What didn't go well today? What did I learn today? But there has to be some component. My process works for me. It doesn't work for everybody. You have to find that process that works for you.
Yeah, we talk about what works for me is not going to work for you, and works for you isn't going to work for me. But the important thing is to find the why. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to set goals? And what's your vision? What do you want to work towards?
and keep that front and center of your daily activity.
Mhm.
Like if you know your why, write it down. Write it down, put it on your bathroom mirror, write it down, put it on your whiteboard, write it down, put it in your journal, put it on your computer, wherever you will see it over and over and over again, put it there, because it's a constant reminder. Oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this. You know what? I haven't done that today. I better sit down and do that. You know, if it's visual and you see it, you'll do it. Otherwise, it's just a thing that's in the back of your mind.
Right. And you're not really working towards it if it's back there, if it's something that's not front and center.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's talk a little bit about, people who set goals tend to be a little bit more successful.
Oh, absolutely.
What is your definition of success?
Oh, that's individual to the person. Absolutely. For me, I am successful if I have added value to the life of someone every day. That's how I measure my success. If I don't do that, that's because that's my standard that I measure myself against. Every person's definition of success is going to be different. For some people, it is going to look like the corner office with the best view.
Mhm.
And that's their standard of success. Other people, it's going to be way more internal. It's going to be a feeling that they have. I have been successful when my students go out and get jobs, or I have been successful when my client returns back to the court or the field from their ACL reconstruction. That is a personal thing. I can't tell somebody how to measure success. What I can do is talk you through a process and ask you the right questions to help you determine what success looks like to you.
Yeah, that's important too. Is people look at success, they, like we talked about, the social media. You're looking at that highlight. So when you start comparing yourself or your success to somebody else's, you're going to get discouraged. Like, man, I wish I was so and so with their success. Well, that success works for that person, probably won't work for you. So
Exactly.
it's finding your success. It's finding what you want to be, where you want to go with your life.
And remembering that what you are looking at on social media, like you said, this could be a whole topic in itself, but is someone's highlight reel. They are not showing you all of the struggles that they took to get to that. I mean, I just recorded a continuing ed course, and one of the things I talked about, when we turn on the TV during the Olympics and we watch those Olympic athletes, we think, oh man, they're so lucky. They have so much talent. But what you fail to recognize is the 20 years of preparation it took them to get there, and the processes and the trainings and the early morning wake ups and everything that they had to go through to get there. Social media can't show you that either. And so if you're looking at somebody and you're looking at their success, remember that there was some steps they had to take to get there. And if it is holding you back that much, then call them up. And they'll tell you right away what their steps to success were, because they'll tell you it didn't happen overnight. Every person who's got some success will tell you it didn't happen overnight. I had to work my tail off to get there.
And it's important to recognize the struggle too. Even though we are setting goals and even though we're setting steps and, we're working towards something, you have to understand that there's going to be a struggle in reaching those goals. And there's going to be setbacks. We talked about our big setback is when our daily plan doesn't go to task. But to understand that those things are going to happen, it's going to make you better in the long run. That's a big thing for people to understand too.
And how you react to it is an important component of it. I used to, a long time ago, get very, like you talked about, frustrated when my day planner wouldn't go like it was supposed to. It almost seemed like everything else fell apart after that. And it took a lot of practice and a lot of internal reflection and a lot of intentionality to say it doesn't have to ruin my day, because I'm in control of my day, not that piece of paper. And so I can readjust and refocus and move forward. But you have to give yourself the opportunity to have that conversation with yourself to move forward.
Right. Yeah. Like I talked about, so like when my days would go to shit, my mental and emotional well-being was out the window too. And that wasn't a good thing. So to understand those and to realize those little struggles, those little things, they're only there because you have to have an obstacle. And if you're not going over obstacles, life's a little too easy, and it shouldn't be too easy. You should have some struggles. You should have some setbacks, because those make those goals that you're working towards a little bit more sweet.
Yep. Even more important when you reach them. Yeah. The things I had to climb over to get here, then now it's, I mean, if you had to climb over nothing to get to where you are, what kind of celebration does that look like at the end? You know what I mean? I sat with a woman yesterday at a conference yesterday. I don't know if you're familiar with Tastefully Simple, but it's a big, or they send out food mixes and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But the CEO of the company came and spoke at a conference I was at yesterday. And she talked about her obstacles. A lot of people will look at her organization, and she's a multi-million-dollar organization, and they will say, wow, you're lucky. She's like, but did you know that when I was 28 years old, my oldest brother died? 10 years to the day after that, my youngest brother died. A few years to the day after that, my husband died of an overdose. I mean, she had a whole story, but you don't know those unless you take the time to look at that. When you look at the big picture, she's got a multi-million-dollar company. Congratulations, she's super successful. I compared myself to her. But every single one of those tragedies in her life was a step for her. I am overcoming this, and I'm going to be better before it. At the end, her driving motivation was she's the only sibling her mom and dad have left, and she wants to make them proud. And that drove her to success. But she had to have those tragedies in her life in order to get there.
How many people do we know that are incredibly successful the day they're born?
Oh gosh, none.
Nobody.
None. I say that with leadership all the time, because there's that expression, are you a born leader? Oh, I hate it. I hate it, because nobody's a born leader. People who are leaders have worked their butt off to get there. They have been intentional about the process, and they have learned a thing or two to become leaders. They did not come out of the womb and the doctor handed your mom the baby and said, congratulations, it's a leader. It doesn't work that way. And that is the same with everything. You are not born and your parents say, or your doctor says to your mom, here's your success. You're born, here's your child who will become a success if they work at it and set some goals and processes along the way.
So what's your definition of a leader?
Oh gosh, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. I really get hung up on this process of you have to be in a position of leadership in order to be a leader. No, you don't. If you are influencing people every day, you are a leader. Look at any organization. The CEO might have very little influence on the people, but I'll bet you there's someone within that organization that people just look to, people respond to, because you said it, they're going to believe it. That's leadership.
I think, we're talking about leadership this whole month, and the amount of people who are starved for leadership training, or starved for the need to be a leader, want to be a leader, or learning traits is so great right now. And I don't know if it's just because we started doing this podcast and I've been researching and reading, but I've just been, it's so much out there right now. People want to learn to be a leader. And that's one of the bigger things that I've realized, is that you don't necessarily have to have that title on your shirt or on your jacket that says I'm number one. You can lead literally from anywhere. You can lead from the bottom right to the middle and from the top, but you don't have to have that title of leader to be a leader.
Say to me, what does leadership training do for me? I don't have anybody I need to lead. And my response is you have to lead you first. Start with leading yourself, and then you will move to bigger and better things. But yes, leadership is not a title. It never has been. I think we could all speak to experiences where somebody was the leader, but we didn't really trust them and we didn't really follow them. But there was maybe somebody else that took the time to maybe connect with us a little bit more that we followed. There is no such thing as born leadership. And I agree with you. I would not have a job as an executive coach, and my phone would not be ringing off the hook if people didn't want this. Mm-hmm. I think we're coming out of business practices of the 80s where we were told it's all positional. And we're realizing now that it's not positional. Leadership is an inside job. And if you want to be a leader, there is nobody who's going to tell you you can't. Just because you don't have that corner office with the view doesn't mean you cannot be a leader within your organization. I mean, I work with moms, and who am I going to lead? I have 3 kids at home. Lead them. Every day you're working to influence them. That's leadership. It isn't your title. It's the influence that you have.
That's pretty good right there. I wanted to close with a quote. There was 2 different books that I was going back and forth that I wanted to open with, and I went with Dr. Peterson for the opening. I'm going to go with Hal Moore for the closing. And he stated in I can't remember if it was a commencement speech at West Point, or if it was just a regular speech that he'd given at West Point. But he said, you've got to have a dream to move towards, or you're dead in the water. Once you realize that dream and accomplish that goal, go get another.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The never-ending process.
Right. And that's the important thing too, is once you set a goal, you're going to have to set another one, because once you reach that goal, you're going to have to reach another one, and so on and so forth. And if you're not doing that, you're going to be dead in the water.
And it becomes, when you reach that goal and you get a taste of what that feels like, you want another goal. And that is the process of growing. And once you get on that path of growth, it's really hard to get off because you like it.
Yeah. So any closing comments before we finish this episode?
Just thank you for having me here. I could talk about this stuff for days. And I meant what I said when I truly believe leadership is your influence, the influence that you have with people. And that comes from caring for people. I totally believe that. I also think that you're absolutely right when you say people are starving for this. They are starving for this. And I want just to make it very clear that it is out there. There are people like myself all over who this is what we do, is help you learn to become a better leader. You do not have to do it by yourself. There are people that do that, but take the step and be intentional about making that step.
Jeremy, I can't hear you.
Oh yeah, Jeremy, I can't hear you.
Yes, I forgot to unmute the thing. All right, Brandy, somebody wants to get a hold of you, become one of your clients, follow like in your footsteps there. How are they going to do that?
Well, I'm in the process of setting up my website just because of this. Right now, people have just found me, and I have taken on more people than I can handle, but I'm always making room for more. So find me on Facebook. My name is Brandy with a Y, Currie, Currie. Find me on Facebook, send me a friend request. I'm going to give out my cell phone number on a podcast, 701-934-0258. This is what I do. And if I can't help you, I will connect you with someone that will. The other thing, I'm working very closely with the Innovate AT group. And you can always find me actively in that Facebook group, messaging and doing things. So.
All right. So find Brandy again. It's BRANDY, and then it's not like Steph Currie because he has a Y at the end, but it's IECURRIE at the end. And then again, this is sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/leadership Currie with her name, CURRIE. And then I'll have a link to her Facebook, her cell phone that she just gave out. And then obviously, if you need to get a hold of her, you can get in touch with me or John.
Yes.
So, John, are you okay if I start with my gratitude?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
All right. So actually, I'm wearing the Frio Hydration shirt, and then it kind of is just like we've been talking about goals. Is I've actually met with Rob a couple different times. He's the CEO of Frio Hydration, and he talks about setting goals. Like, what do you want to do with this, Jeremy? Think about beyond just having a conversation with somebody. What do you want to do with it? What do you want to do with it? Where is it going? And then, like you said, how is it helping people? So, I hear from people, okay, yeah, that's good. That's good enough. That's all I want to do. What do I want to do with it? How is it going to be bigger or better? And I've set goals before, and then I just let them go. And so Rob kind of encourages me to continue to stay with those goals. And I've got some different things that I'm encouraging him on towards goals. So we kind of have that accountability deal, but just with his experience with the Frio Hydration and his DJ business that he has, it encourages me because that's somebody I know that I relate with, that's in a pretty similar situation. And so I'm really thankful that I've had the opportunity, especially last year when we drove all the way to New Orleans and all the way back, because that's 6 hours in a car, and then we shared a hotel room, and then 6 hours back. So there was a lot of good conversation, silly stuff. You could, find the video of me and Rob freestyling. He did a lot better than I did, but it was just really cool. And so I'm really thankful for Rob and the friendship and the opportunity to learn a little bit more about goal setting and moving forward and having a plan. So thanks, Rob.
Brandy, I'm going to let you go ahead if you want to close out today's show with a gratitude.
Oh goodness, I don't even know where to begin. I'm so thankful for so much that I have in my life. My mentor, I think everybody should have one. My mentor is Deb Esslinger. She's a member of the John Maxwell team. She supports me day in and day out. I got a shout out to John Maxwell and his team for pushing me harder every single day and allowing me to become somebody that I didn't even know was possible. And then just all my clients for believing in me enough to, and you guys for believing in my message enough to let me come on here and talk about it. Because who knows, I might never shut up once I start talking.
We were very grateful to have you on, and to add to this topic. Like I said, I was looking at goal setting. I thought that was an incredibly important thing when it comes to leadership and leadership traits and training. One of the things I do with all my interns is I make them do goal setting, and it's weekly, monthly, and then for the semester, because I want them to have a vision of what they're doing, why they're there, why they're getting better every single day. So my closing gratitude is I'm going to thank all my past interns, and I'm going to do this really quickly. Damien, Jayla, Ralph, Shannon, Gabby, Shantae, Nicole, Kayla, James, Kim, Rachel, Courtney, Ben, Steve, Alyssa, Felicia, Joe, Justin, Sam, Kate, and Andrew. That should be every single one of them. I hope I didn't miss anybody. But I've had a great program with Central Michigan over the last couple of years, and having interns has helped me probably more than it's helped them. And I've really found that goal setting with them has really helped me personally set goals when it comes to my practice in my daily life as well. So once again, I want to thank you for being here and helping out with this discussion on goal setting. And Jeremy, if you had anything for closing, unmute yourself.
You're still on mute.
All right. So we've been having plenty of technical issues, and I'm going to have to go back and listen. And there may be an echo in the podcast. And if you made it through this far and there was an echo on the podcast, then I really appreciate it. And that just speaks to the volume that John and Brandy are doing. So this episode is sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/leadership Currie. And again, that'll be a way for you to get in touch with Brandy. And Brandy, I really think that we're going to have to kind of continue the conversation and maybe actually walk through some of the steps and the practical application of setting goals, maintaining goals, and going through there. So more of what it looks like rather than kind of like the overall general idea. So I think John's probably going to put together another leadership series next year now that we've got some experience. So I look forward to bringing you back there. Again, sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/leadership Currie is this episode. I am Jeremy Jackson, host of the Sports Medicine Broadcast. And we got John Seco, the host for the series, and then Brandy Currie, the host for everything leadership, apparently. So, all right. So, for Jeremy, John, and Brandy, that is a wrap. Thanks, guys.